When you see what happened to someone like JK Rowling, you spoke about, I think one of your kids brought you up to speed on what she'd said, and it was, women menstruate, for example. And you were like, well, I don't understand what all the fuss is about. And yet she was exposed to death threats and all sorts of attempts to cancel her and so on. Again, I just felt that everyone's losing their minds.
Well, I couldn't understand that whole thing at all. I thought, well, this is not an area I am not necessarily permitted to tread upon. But at the same time, I thought it was there was something deeply unjust about it. I just felt that, and and it's happening time and time again. And it's not only the people who are cancelled. It's also the people, like their families, like their children, like their parents, like their, it has such ramifications. Yeah. It creates a sort of like an earthquake situation.
Yeah. On JK Rowling, she said, standing up for women's rights. We've got to a strange place again where politicians, Supreme Court nominees, are struggling to say what a woman is. They're too scared to say it's an adult female for fear of the mob.
But we've never examined. You see, the point is we're beginning to examine things that we have never hitherto examined before, particularly the relationship between men and women, and particularly the sexual relationship between men and women, and how that relationship is operated. And it particularly affects young men and women, because they don't know how or what or how or should they express themselves in certain ways. And there's a kind of form of fascism because of knockdown effect where there are kids who just do not know how to approach one another now. And it's,
they're too scared in many cases.
It's too scared, but it's also we're a lot to blame because we haven't attended to it. We haven't actually had schools of study about what those relationships are.
When you talk about study, I mean, I'm incredibly depressed by what's going on at university and colleges and campuses around the world, where you see, the New York Post did a piece about 5 professors who all got cancelled. And it's happening all over the place. So one of them was actually giving a lecture given for 20 years, where he talked about the usage of offensive language. And to illustrate this in the lecture, he said some offensive language. And he got cancelled because people didn't have the brain power to understand what he was doing.
Well, this is part of the virus. And it kind of, I don't know, it just makes people behave in the most idiotic, insensitive, and again, as I say, hypocritical way. They feel one thing, but they practice something quite else.
What's the answer to it?
I don't know. I mean, we're in a very sad place at the moment, really. I think with what's going on both in Ukraine and what's been going on in America, especially in the last 7 years, I mean, it's just been a very bad time. And we're so confused. We just don't know what to believe anymore because all our belief systems are falling apart. And so we're like vigilantes. We have vigilante belief groups, which is what I believe the whole woke culture is.
Yes.
It's a form of vigilante.
It is McCarthyite. I mean, it's exactly the same mentality, rooting people out for perceived indiscretions,
exactly.
and then basically evaporating them from society.
That's right. And there's we go, why is the reason? And of course it's catching. I mean, it's catching. In my business, it catches because suddenly projects. I mean, Bill Murray the other day, and a wonderful, I mean, he made a remark, and it was taken in a way as being offensive. And the picture he was making was stopped the whole thing. Now, Bill went on, I think it was CNN, and explained himself, I thought rather brilliantly, actually, saying, it's about times that have changed. I lived and grew up in one time, and I'm meeting another time, and it's very hard to know how to approach that time. Where do we go? How do we come in? Where is the entryway to make a conversation or just make even a joke with one another?
Well, anyone can take offence at anything, and they can then weaponise the offence.
Exactly.
And that's where we've got to. And it's almost impossible to defend yourself because the court of public opinion passes verdict immediately.
That's right.